my turn.
Come together.
Shall we?
It's good to see you playing well with others again.
Just like a bat. I dig it.
Maybe temporary.
Yeah!
The DC Extended Universe is very, very interesting. Its first film, Man of Steel, I thought was a pretty solid and good movie, and was an interesting interpretation of the Superman character. And I did enjoy the more humanized, realistic version of him. I did think it was rather fascinating. So I did think Man of Steel was a pretty good movie. 3 years later, they released Batman v Superman, which was critically destroyed by critics, and I think rightfully so. That film was a little bit incoherent, maybe a bit too long. Actually, no, not long enough, sorry. A lot of scenes were cut out. I do think the Ultimate Cut benefited from those extra scenes, and I think the Ultimate Cut is a borderline good movie. But the original theatrical cut had a bunch of nonsensical nonsense. So it's a lot of n's. But yeah, it wasn't really for me. I did like Ben Affleck's interpretation of Batman. I do think later down the line he has the ability to like take this character in a direction we've never really seen before. And then Suicide Squad, that was a pile of doo-doo. I'm not going to talk about that. And then they released Wonder Woman, which I thought was very, very solid, and probably the best DC EU movie that they have released. I did think it was very strong, and I think the characters were strong. I think the writing was strong. I did think it was a good type of feminist movie, not like, you know, kill all men and all that, but it was very good. I think it had a good message as well. But I do think the thing that weighed it down was like the reversal of the message that was supposed to be at the end. Like Ares, sometimes it's not all just one person, but then it ended up being one person, and like the Germans actually hug the Americans and whoever they were fighting, and I thought that was absolutely ridiculous and brought the movie down a lot. And now we're at Justice League, the culmination of what, like 2 movies. They obviously are trying to replicate the Marvel formula with all these setup movies and having the team up movie, but the problem is with Justice League is that it feels very rushed. It feels very like we got to catch up to Marvel, and I do think Justice League does suffer from not knowing these characters well enough, you know, from them having their solo movies, because yeah, they have to explain a lot in a very short movie. It's like barely 2 hours with credits, and I do think a lot of the characters are kind of left in the back as to what their backstories are, and they're kind of like glossed over, much like Suicide Squad was trying to set up all these characters. But overall, I think Justice League was a pretty enjoyable film. It's not a good film. It's okay. It's enjoyable. I did have a good laugh every once in a while. Yeah, it was enjoyable. I don't think it was what the DCEU needed. I do think they should have stuck to their guns. I know Zack Snyder's daughter tragically committed suicide, and he had to like step down, and Joss Whedon of Avengers fame stepped in to helm the film, and I do think there was that conflicting tone there in the movie, and it's very interesting because I do think the film was way too humorous. People think that the problem with Batman v Superman was that it was like too dark. I love dark. I love DC. That's why I think DC is better than Marvel, because I always found the stories more dark, more gritty, more relatable, you know, all that. And I love DC for that, because they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. The problem with Batman v Superman was that it was just incomprehensible and a bunch of nonsense. You know, it didn't really make much sense. But in this movie, they do a complete 180 and do an Avengers ripoff. And most of the jokes did not land for me, especially Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller's Flash interpretation. Did not like Ezra Miller's Flash. maybe I'll have to see him in his solo film, but he did not click with me. I do think it was pretty wrong to make Barry Allen the jokester character when I think Wally West fits that mold a little bit more. And yeah, Barry Allen, as familiar as Barry Allen, didn't really work for me. But he does work for a lot of people, which is good. Most of his jokes didn't land for me personally, but you know, that's good. That's good that if you like it, that's great. Next on my list is Cyborg. He was probably my favorite out the whole team, just because of how well Ray Fisher played the tormented monster role. I do think it was very interesting to see like Cyborg kind of in a way that we haven't really seen him before, because we've seen him in Teen Titans. He's like booyah, and you know, all that. But I think it was a very interesting like 180 to try and like do this kind of opposite thing, and I think the movie really benefited from actually exploring a different part of Cyborg, and I think Ray Fisher played it extremely well. Next on my list is Aquaman. Aquaman, he was alright. I'm excited for his solo movie. James Wan is directing it. James Wan hasn't even made a bad movie yet. I think by the end of the movie, Aquaman just kind of becomes Jason Momoa, and at that point it just becomes like I'm just watching Jason Momoa and a bunch of tattoos. But you know, he was alright. I think he became a little my man, a little too much, but yeah, he was okay. Next on my list is Wonder Woman. She was alright as well. I do think, sadly, she was over-sexualized, and her gender is played up for laughs. Sometimes the Flash even lands on her breasts, and they played it for laughs, but I didn't really find it that funny, because this isn't the 90s where that joke was still funny. And yeah, I do think she was a little depowered as well from her own movie. But you know, yeah, Wonder Woman was alright. I think Gal Gadot really knows who the character is at this point. Superman, he was also great in the movie. He's probably the best we've ever seen him in terms of like how much fun he is to watch. I mean, he is the Superman we all know and love, which depending on who you are might be a bad thing, might be a good thing. I don't know. But he has some really cool scenes, especially with the Flash. One thing I will say is that his upper lip is very distracting, because at the time of filming he had a mustache and they had to digitally remove it, and I just kept looking at his face like, that's a bit strange. But you know, Superman, I think he's really fun in the movie. Even he has a few jokes that don't land, and yeah, that's it. Oh wait, no, there's still Batman. Batman I did not like in this movie, plain and simple. I think making Batman comedic and trying to make him funny is the complete wrong direction you want to take Batman in. In the Justice League animated series, he worked the best. He and Superman had a mutual respect for each other, and they had kind of like an unspoken thing, like a friendship, but they never really said it to each other. And maybe when Superman died in the cartoon, you know, Bruce like went to his grave and, you know, said his piece about how he was a friend, how he stood up for hope and all that. In this movie, Batman just like tells like a bunch of jokes that really aren't funny, and that's not Batman at all. And the fact that they try to make Batman funny and kind of Avengers-ize him, I'm sorry, that's not a word, but you know, Marvelize him, is very disappointing, because that's not who Batman is. And yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with that, because I think Ben Affleck, given the right material, can really pull off a Batman solo film. Yeah, but overall, this video is getting a bit long now. Justice League is a completely enjoyable, serviceable movie to watch. It's not amazing as a movie, but the characters are all right, and it's just a fun time to watch. Let's head to the rankings now. I'll give you my obvious foreseen prediction of how I would rank them. In first place, Logan. Wow, what a huge surprise that was. Logan was a masterpiece, and it came out the very beginning of the year, so it was pretty obvious that Logan was going to be number one on every comic book movie of the year. Logan, what a great send-off to Hugh Jackman, and just an amazing film. In second place, behind Logan, Thor Ragnarok, very fun movie. It's a bloody great time. Probably one of the funniest, if not the funniest, Marvel movies to date. And great time. All the actors are top notch and really, I can't say it enough. It was a great time and very colorful, and the music choices were perfection. In third place behind Thor Ragnarok, Spider-Man Homecoming. Tom Holland was a great performance as Spider-Man. Robert Downey Jr. was also a really good performance as Tony Stark. The villain, the Vulture, was great. Yeah, it was just a very solid Spider-Man movie. Maybe not as good as Spider-Man 2, but definitely a very fun Marvel movie. And yeah, just a lot of fun, you know. And I cannot wait to see Tom Holland in future films. In fourth place behind Spider-Man, Wonder Woman. Very solid movie. I enjoyed the acting quite a lot. And even though the last act is kind of poopy, the rest of the movie was too good not to give it the fourth spot. The first great DCEU movie, I think. In fifth place, while not as good as the first, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is still a pretty good time with some laughs and some great music choices. Sixth place, also known as the loser of the year, it's Justice League. I'm sorry guys, I really wanted to love Justice League, but sadly I did not. And it's a pretty serviceable, enjoyable film, but sadly it is the last on the list, and it is the least of the superhero films this year, sadly. And that's my ranking for every comic book movie of the year, the first annual one that I'll be doing every single year. Did you agree with my list? Yes, no, maybe so. Be sure to tell me. I know you probably won't, but you know, just for good old fun, maybe you should. Thank you for you know, being with me on this series. Yeah, that was every comic book movie of the year, and I think it was obvious that Logan was gonna win from the beginning, but you know, whatever. It is what it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay wonderful, stay beautiful. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.